I consciously every day seek out what am I bad at and how can I just pound this weakness until it's a strength.
Okay, so have you ever wondered why Mat Fraser is so successful at CrossFit? I mean, sure, yeah, he trains hard, but so do a lot of other elite CrossFit athletes, and with the exception of Rich Froning, no other CrossFit athlete has gotten the same success as he has. So if you're like me, you might have asked yourself a few times, what is it that sets him apart from the rest? Hey, my name is Michael Groff, and if you're new here, my channel is all about helping new CrossFitters get better in CrossFit. So if that sounds like you, make sure you join the team by subscribing and hitting that notification bell. However, if you're already a part of the team, thanks so much for tuning in for another video. Okay, so in this video, we're going to be going over a tip that Mat Fraser gives on why he is so successful in CrossFit. And whether or not you're interested in competing in CrossFit or not, this tip is going to help you a ton. Okay, so I'm going to start by playing a clip on a documentary done by Mat Fraser. And in this clip, you're going to hear Matt explain a little bit on why he is so dominant in CrossFit. But without any further ado, let's watch that clip.
I consciously every day seek out what am I bad at and how can I just pound this weakness until it's a strength.
Okay, so Mat Fraser just said, every day I seek out what am I bad at and how can I pound that into a strength. Now obviously there are a lot of reasons why Mat Fraser is so successful in CrossFit, but he gives away one tip on why he is so successful, and that is that he focuses on the things that he's bad at and he fixes them. Now you may be thinking, well, that's exactly what every other athlete does. And while it is true that other athletes focus on their weaknesses, I've never seen another athlete that attacks their weaknesses as hard and as aggressively as Mat Fraser. In fact, here's a little story on how Mat Fraser actually puts this into practice. Okay, back at the 2015 Reebok CrossFit Games, there was a sprint event. At that moment, Mat Fraser was sitting in first at the CrossFit Games, and he was performing extremely well up until that event. Okay, so the sprint event consisted of 2 heats. In the first heat, you had a zigzag between 4 obstacles and then jump 4 hurdles. In the second heat, you ran the obstacle course in reverse and you jumped over the 4 hurdles, and then you zigzagged between the 4 obstacles. In those 2 heats, Mat Fraser placed 27th in the first heat and 32nd in the second heat. And up until that point, his lowest placement in a heat was 12th place. And those 2 bad placements obviously brought his score way down and made him place 2nd overall at the games, taking him away from 1st place. After Mat Fraser saw that he was a horrible sprinter, he did exactly what he said in that clip we just watched. He literally attacked that weakness with everything he had, and in fact, he actually joined a local high school sprint practice. During that whole next year, he continued to train sprints, and his training finally paid off during the 2016 Reebok CrossFit Games. During one of the events in the 2016 Games was, you guessed it, another sprint event. But this time Mat Fraser was ready for that event, and to everyone's surprise, he placed 2nd in that event. I mean, that's insane. He took what was one of his biggest weaknesses and turned it into one of his biggest strengths. Now there are 4 observations you and I can take from that story. However, before we do, if you're enjoying this video, make sure you absolutely obliterate that like button. The first observation is, in order to crush your CrossFit goals, you're gonna have to focus. For example, if you're trying to get better at handstand push-ups, make sure you're focusing on handstand push-ups and movements that will benefit your handstand push-ups, such as military presses or hand release push-ups. However, if you decide to train handstand push-ups one week, but then you forget about them the next week and start focusing on something else, you are never going to gain as much progress as you would have if you would have consistently focused on one thing. Now, obviously, I don't mean everything you're going to do in your training is handstand push-ups, but focus on your handstand push-ups until you meet a personal goal that you set for yourself. If your goal is to do 15 unbroken kipping handstand push-ups, don't lose focus on that goal until you can do 15 unbroken handstand push-ups. The second observation is, make sure you create a plan for your goals. Mat Fraser didn't just randomly start training sprints. He went into it with a plan that he knew it was going to get him to where he wanted to be. So whatever CrossFit goal you're trying to hit, create a plan for that goal and follow it until you hit your goal. And your plan doesn't have to be huge or complex. Start simple. For example, if you're trying to get handstand walks, a simple plan could be to practice handstand walks for a few minutes after every workout. The third observation is consistency. Mat Fraser didn't just train his sprints for a few weeks and then move on. he continued to train his sprints consistently until it became a strength. He was consistent for an entire year and finally saw his payoff from his training at the 2016 games 1 year later. So whatever goal you're trying to accomplish, whether it's CrossFit related or not, be consistent and know that it might take a little while until you hit your goal. The last observation is you need to put your ego aside. Do you realize how humble Mat Fraser had to be in order to go to sprint practice with 9th and 10th grade sprinters? Mat Fraser even said that those 9th and 10th grade sprinters were absolutely destroying him on the track. And remember, at that time, Mat Fraser was the second fittest man on earth, yet he was willing to go to sprint practice with kids half his age. The point I'm trying to make is don't let your ego get in the way of asking for help if you need it. All you're gonna do is stunt your progress. Okay, so I have a question for you. What CrossFit related goal are you currently trying to accomplish? Drop your answer in the comments below. I read every single one. Also, if you're wanting to watch that entire documentary by Mat Fraser, it should be on the screen right now or also link in the description below. But anyway, train hard, team, and see you later.